Social Media Basics for Law Firm Owners, Episode 68. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Profit with Law. I am your host, Moshe Amsel, and I'm super excited about the topic today because although it says basics on it, I think that when we talk about social media, there's without a doubt going to be something that I'm going to share that you might not have known or might not have thought about. So even if you are a social media guru, you might want to pay attention to the episode today. Now, before I jump into the content, I want to share with you, I've been talking about this on the last couple of weeks of episodes, but if you're new to the podcast, this is your first episode you're listening to, or you're coming back to us from previous episodes, and you missed the last couple of weeks, I just want to share with you that I've been offering free coaching sessions, free law firm expansion coaching sessions, where we spend 90 minutes together, and I help you with creating a crystal clear vision for your ultimate law firm success and the perfect lifestyle you'd like your firm to provide. I help you uncover hidden challenges that may be sabotaging the growth of your firm and keeping you working too many hours. And finally, you're going to leave the session renewed, re-energized, and inspired to turn your firm into a highly profitable revenue-generating machine that practically runs itself. Now, the opportunity to take advantage of these free coaching sessions is coming to an end as I'm going into a new group in my group coaching program. And once I do, I'm not going to have space on my calendar to provide these free sessions. So if you want to take advantage of a free session with me, go and book your slot now. There's only a few time slots left. Make sure that you grab it. And you can get that by going to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. And just like every episode, anything I mention on this episode that is a link referring to something will be listed in the show notes. The show notes can be found at profitwithlaw.com/068, profitwithlaw.com/068. So without any further ado, I would like to go and jump into today's topic, and that is social media basics for law firm owners. So when we go and talk about social media, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into 8 steps. Okay, so there's 8 steps that you need to take in order to get the process going for social media that's going to produce results for you. And what do I mean by produce results for you? Well, social media is there for many different reasons. And the first thing that I'm going to share is, even before I go into step number 1, is why should you pay attention to social media? What if you say, well, I don't even have a Facebook account. I don't even have an Instagram account. Well, welcome to the year 2020. Your clients are going to be investigating you. Your leads, your potential clients are going to be investigating you long before you even hear about them, long before they even make a phone call to your firm, you get on the phone with them. They've already checked you out. They've already made some initial decisions about you. They might have gone and checked out your website. They might have looked at your website and already determined that your website is too 1990s, lacks information, or is beautiful and looks professional, and they really like the way you came across as a law firm on your website. Well, then they checked you out and they went to social media and they started to check out your profiles. And if your profiles are hidden and there's no information for them to be seen or they don't exist, then they start to question about whether you're a real person and whether you exist or whether you have something to hide. Now, I'm not saying that your profiles need to be public. we can talk about that because we'll talk about the difference between a personal and a business profile. So you have to weigh them and understand what each one is and what the benefit or downside of each one is. But you have to have a presence out there. You have to have something for people to go and find, unless you very specifically know that the target market you're looking for is not one that is ever going to see you on social. And then, that's a different story, because step number one, what we're going to talk about, is identifying your target market. So once you identify your target market, if that determines that you don't need to be on social, good for you. But 95% of attorneys, law firm owners today need to have a social presence, and probably if you want to drive any sort of business from social traffic, which is really where people are hanging out these days, then you probably want to not just have a presence, but actually have a strategy and a plan of how to find those people and bring them into your world. So step number one is identify your target market. Now I'm going to tell you to go back and listen to episode, I think it's 29, where I talk about how important a niche is in your law firm. And I'm just going to pause my recording real quick and make sure I'm giving you the right episode number. And indeed, it is episode 29, Why Choosing a Niche Will Skyrocket Your Firm. And again, we'll link up to that in the show notes. You can go to profitwithlaw.com/029 to find that, or simply just scroll through our past episodes in your favorite podcast player. Anyway, in that episode, I made the case for why niching down and having a very specific focal point of what you do and who you do it for is extremely important, and is really the secret ingredient to having rapid success. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't niche down and you are a generalist that you're not going to be successful. You certainly can be, but it's going to take you a much longer time to get to a significant level of success. And very simply, it's because when you're a generalist, you're competing with everybody, and there's no reason for somebody to use you over somebody else, because they don't have enough proof that you're the right person for them. When you are very specifically serving a very specific target audience. So for example, if you only do litigation for salon owners, then any salon owner that is involved in litigation is going to seek you out, because you very specifically serve that community. And if they talk to a salon owner who has gone through litigation, they're going to say, you have to check out this law firm. If they go to an attorney that does general litigation, they may know that you specialize in salons. And when they see a salon owner, they might say, look, we can represent you, but there's somebody who really knows your market and is able to represent you even better than we are. And let's introduce them to you. So that's on the front end, on the marketing side, it creates this magnet to bring the people that you're looking for. It also creates a lot of efficiencies on the business side, and I don't want to go into that right now because it has nothing to do with this episode. But if you have chosen who you serve and what you serve to them, or how you serve them, then you can identify your target market, and that's step number one. Now, why is that step number one? And now this comes full circle, right? It's going to, once you understand why this is step number one, you might now understand why it's so important to have a niche. Well, step number two is going to be to fix your profiles, to start to put out there who you serve and how you serve them, and give them a next step. So if somebody does happen to come to your profile and check you out, and they see what you do and it's relevant to them and they have a need for it, they can now take the next step with you, whether that's contacting you, providing their contact information to you in return for something free that you have out there, or even sending them to something that you have out there, a blog post, or a blog in general, blog site, or a YouTube channel, or a specific YouTube video. So you can give them the next step in your profile. When they're checking you out, they're going to see that. Guaranteed, they're going to follow the breadcrumbs that you leave for them. So if you create these breadcrumbs, you create the strategy for them to follow, then it's going to allow them to go deeper and deeper into your brand and who you are, and is going to increase the likelihood that not only do they reach out and call you, but they already almost have their mind made up when they call you. They just need to find out if they connect with you and if they're able to afford you, right? So that it really changes the script in the sales conversation. So number one is you got to know who your target market is. You got to identify that. And once you do that, now we can go to number two. Number two is fix your profiles. Now, fix your profiles is not platform specific. So the number three that I'm going to share with you in just a moment is to select your primary platform. But number two is to fix your profiles. So you are going to choose a primary platform to focus on, because if you try to be everywhere, you end up not making an impact anywhere. So once you garner a following and you have a system in place for a specific platform, that's when it makes sense to move on and add the next platform. But until then, you want to put all your efforts into one platform. So that's step number three. In step number two, we're talking about fixing your profiles. That you want to fix your profiles literally on any place where you exist on social media. The reason is because although you're going to try to attract people on the platform you're focusing on, somebody might look for you on another platform. And when they do, you want them to come across a profile that actually is complete, that actually gives information, that actually sends them to the next step, like I just explained. So what are the main components of a profile? Number one, the photo, the image. Don't put a company logo. Don't put a picture of your building. Put a picture of you. It should be a professional headshot. It should be zoomed in on your face. Preferably your face should be inviting, not necessarily smiling, depending on, what your area of expertise is. Smiling might not be what they're looking for. They might not want a friendly lawyer. They might want somebody who's going to go to bat for them and is going to be a lion in the courtroom. So that might not be the precise look, but you want it to be something that they are attracted to. When they see your face, it magnetizes them and says, hey, let me check this guy out. You definitely don't want it to be, a picture from your nephew's bar mitzvah, where you just crop out your face from a family photo. And you definitely don't want it to be something you took on your iPhone. Although cameras are quite advanced these days, and you can get a gorgeous picture with that. And if you do, that is probably the next best thing to a professional headshot. But go and get yourself a professional headshot. You need it. You should have it for your website. You're gonna need it here for social. There's so many uses for it. You don't need to do a whole massive photo shoot. A single headshot would do. So, and it's a starting point. Once you get to where the cost is insignificant, you can do a full shoot, get the rest of your staff, do other things with that, and get images for other types of marketing initiatives. But you got to have a good photo in your profile. The next thing is your tagline. So most social platforms allow you to have a tagline that appears underneath your name. The tagline, your name, the tagline, and the photo are the three pieces that come up on most platforms when you're searching for somebody or something and multiple people come up. That is what people will see before they even click on your profile. So you want that headline to be something that is so attractive to your target audience that they see it, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to check out what this guy or gal does. So that's why going back to number one, identify your target market, is so critical, because your message has to be so dialed in that headline that you're going to get people to click on you out of a sea of other people. You got to get people to click on you and check you out. So from there, you have the about section, or the place where you're allowed to put in a paragraph or two about yourself. And that is where you want to make sure that you are not only explaining what you do and why you're so great, but also giving them a next step, offering something for free so that you can get their information, or sending them to a piece of content that's going to take them on the next step in their journey. So that that's basically the nuts and bolts, the basics of your profile. There's a few other things that are platform agnostic. So depending on the platform, there might be a place where you can link articles or you can publish articles. There might be a place where you can put a header image where you can further display what you have to offer, or display your firm, or display the next steps that somebody should take. So that's another area that you can put. But basically what you want to do is you want to go through the profile and make sure that there's no section that's left blank unintentionally. Now, you may leave a section blank intentionally, but make sure that you're not leaving anything blank unintentionally. So that is step number 2. Step number 3 is select your primary platform. And again, this is where it's going to be difficult, because you're going to feel like you need to be everywhere. It's common, it's a natural instinct for you to want to, I'm doing the effort already here. I should just do a little bit more to do the same thing there. Listen, the same post can't be used for Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram effectively. Each platform has a specific style, a specific type of post, a specific way of putting things out there that is going to be good for that platform, that's going to give you the oomph and the juice and the credibility and the traction that you need. And if you try to take the same post and just carpet bomb it across the platforms, that will not work. And ultimately, it'll probably backfire, because you'll end up looking like you're just marketing, and if somebody goes to one platform, goes to the other platform, they're going to see the same post. They're going to see that there's no originality. They're different. They're not different. They're the same. And it's just not going to work in your favor. So it's best to just choose one platform and really learn and understand how that platform operates, how the algorithm works, how people find you, how you provide value to the people that are interacting with your profile on that platform. And as you learn that, and you learn that platform, you'll get really good at it. You'll start to get traction on it, and you'll start to gain a following, and hopefully be getting leads and sales from that. Once you've done that for one platform, you can always add another later. So right now, I'm not telling you say yes to only one and no to the rest. I'm saying yes to one and not right now to the rest, if that makes sense. So that was number 3. Now, number 4. Let me go back to 3 for 1 second. So how do you choose which is the primary platform, right? So I told you need to select one, but I didn't really help you understand how to select one. So this goes back again to number 1. You have to identify your target market. Where are they hanging out? Where do they spend time? If your target market is millennials, they're probably on Instagram. If your target market is moms, they're probably on Instagram. Everybody is on Facebook. Now, how active they are on Facebook is a different story. So, Facebook is a massive platform that's got more than half of the world's population is on Facebook. And that's a pretty significant statistic and fact, and it's really an eye-opener. When in doubt, choose Facebook as your platform. If you're doing primarily B2B, then there's a good chance that LinkedIn might be the best platform for you. And so if you're an attorney that is doing commercial litigation or business law, employment law, then LinkedIn might be a very good platform for you. Whereas if you're doing trust and estates, Facebook's probably a better platform for you, or even Instagram, depending on the age of customer you're looking for. And again, this goes back to identify your target market. Just being a trust and estates attorney isn't good enough. You have to determine, am I targeting the elderly or am I targeting the young parent? Who is my ideal market that I'm targeting? Because it's a different message. It's a different place that you're going to find them. 2 different worlds that you have to market to, and you got to figure out which one of those it is. So I'm sorry if you're saying, okay, I get it, but people, the law firm owners that I come across, even the ones that have heard this message before, many of them are resistant to doing this. And you gotta lose the resistance and go back and truly identify Who is it that you want to serve? And we're just going to focus on that market. We're just going to focus on that person, because that's going to give you the ability to create this focused intensity with everything that you do. Right now we're talking about social. Tomorrow it could be advertising. Whatever the case may be, you need to be specific in who it is that you're trying to reach. So that's the primary platform. Number 4, determine whether or not there is a need or a desire for a business page. So in Facebook, in LinkedIn, even in Instagram, you can have a business account that's different than a personal account. Now, there are all kinds of considerations as to why you would want to use a business account versus why you would want to use a personal account. Now, this is especially sensitive when it comes to lawyers, and here I'm going to ask you to, first of all, investigate your local ethics requirements from your bar association, because those guidelines might dictate how you treat this. I know that in the legal industry, more than any other industry, lawyers are using a business profile for all of their social activities and not using a personal profile at all. That being said, now I'm going to go back to, let's make believe that you're just a regular business owner, because in some states this will apply to you, and in some states it might not. So if it applies to you, great. If not, you can just take this information in. Maybe one day it will. But it's good to just know and understand what the difference is. So first of all, understand that the social platforms are a business. Facebook is a business. They have to make a profit. Instagram is owned by Facebook. You have to make a profit. LinkedIn, owned by Microsoft. They have to make a profit. The social platforms are not there just for the sake of giving you a means of communication. How do they make money? They make money through advertising. Businesses have to pay to play. Therefore, the algorithm is designed to encourage that, which means that Facebook will take a personal post that somebody puts up and they'll give it a certain amount of reach. They'll basically put it in front of people that the algorithm believes would be interested in that post. And somebody who's posting on their personal profile can actually get some pretty significant reach from that post. On the business side, the same post done from a business page would get much less reach, because Facebook wants you to have to advertise. They want you to have to pay in order to get that same post in front of other people. Now, a friend of mine, Rachel Miller, has a class that she teaches on how to create viral content that goes viral even without paying for it, right? So even without paying ad traffic, she teaches you how to have a page that's super engaged, that has people sharing the content, and really garners followers to the page and viewers to the posts. That is still doable. In other words, there's a lot of people out there who say that doesn't exist anymore. It's not true. I see her students doing it all the time. It's not something I'm going to cover here on this podcast. And quite frankly, that's her wheelhouse. It's something she's really good at. I've never successfully done it myself. In other words, I'm not going to stand here in front of the microphone and tell you, oh, you have to do X, Y, and Z if you want to create a viral post, because I don't know what I'm talking about, other than the fact that I'm a student of hers and I'm learning from her style, and I can turn around and repeat the things that she said. But honestly, it's really best. Actually, you know what? That's a great idea. Let me get her as a guest onto this podcast. Well, I'm going to see if I can pull that off. I'm going to reach out to her and see if I can get her to come on and be a guest here. We can actually talk about that. So that aside, so understand that by doing your content on a business profile, there is a good chance that it's going to reach less people. Less people are going to see it than if you did the content on a personal profile. Now, at the same time, if you are using your personal profile to share posts about your kids, you're keeping your personal profile as private as possible, then posting the business stuff on the personal profile may or may not be good for you. In other words, if everyone you're connected to personally is your family and friends, they're not necessarily your business associates or your potential target market, then posting on your personal profile doesn't really make a lot of sense, because even though it could get the reach, it's going to get the reach in front of the wrong people. Whereas on the business page, if you have people who are liking your page because they are interested in your firm, then when you post something on the business page, it may show up in their feed because they liked your page. So its relevancy is really important here. For example, on my Facebook profile, my personal profile right now, I don't do a lot of business posting. However, I have been growing my connections, my actual personal connections in this space, right? So as that grows, it's going to become more and more relevant for me to post on my personal profile stuff that I'm doing in my business. So there is a balancing act, and it's just something that you need to understand. This step number 4 is just determining whether you have a need for a business page. Chances are the answer is yes. Chances are you need a business page on Facebook. If you're doing it on LinkedIn, you need a business page on LinkedIn. And if for nothing else, then to create an ads account so you can get a tracking code from that ads platform and install that on your website so that you start to track people coming to your website, so that later, if you want to run a promotion, you want to advertise for your firm, you can actually target the people who have once been to your website. Creates this audience of people that you can then target ads to. Instagram is an interesting character because Instagram, I don't think you can have 2 accounts. Now, I could even be misspeaking here because I'm definitely not the Instagram expert, but I believe you have to choose whether your account is going to be a business account. So you take your personal account and you convert it into a business account. And I don't think that you can have 2. I could be wrong. So again, the same thing applies, like if you make it a business account, I heard that it really decreases your reach on the account. But at the same time, if you want to run ads from that account into the platform, if you're running it from your personal account, then the ads show up as they're coming from you. And if you want them to be coming from your law firm, you want to make sure that it's the business account that it's coming from. So just understand the platform that you're working in. Do some due diligence, do some research, understand what you're getting yourself into, but realize that if you're creating a business page, you're starting from scratch with 0 followers. And one of the first things you might want to do is just to get some people to like the page. So then you might turn around and go to your family and friends and say, hey, I've got this new business page. Can you like the page? You even have the ability in Facebook to just say, hey, I want to invite all my connections and, to like the page. The problem is that when you do that, you're now taking away from the effectiveness of what those followers, what those likes are intended to do. In other words, if they're not interested in the content that you're putting out there on the page, they're not going to interact with it. They're not going to engage with it. And Facebook is going to see that your page doesn't have that engagement, that the people are not interested in what you're posting. So it actually can work against you to go and invite your family and friends. So I wouldn't be worried about how many people have liked the page. What I would start doing is as you get leads, new people coming into your world, I would create an email sequence that is going to garner value to them. It's going to tell them about your firm. It's going to tell them how amazing you are. And you can always, along the way, you can ask them to go and like your Facebook page so that they might see some of the things that you're putting out there. And that is how you can grow your likes, even if you're not doing ads on that platform, even if you're not running ads on that platform. So that was step number 4, determine whether or not you need a business page. Step number 5, and this is going to be the most vague. Step 5 and 6 are going to be the most vague on this episode. And that is to identify or define the strategy you're going to use on the platform. And the reason I say it's going to be the most vague is because there's so many different strategies of how to attract people on social. So remember at the beginning when I said that you should fix your profile, I identified two different uses of your social media profile. One use is to basically have a place where people, if they come to check you out, they can see the information and they can find out more about you. The second use is to actively look for leads on social, to actively try to get new business from your social media efforts. And if that's what you're trying to do, which I hope it is, because that's where people are these days, and that's where business is going to be coming from, and in the future. So really understanding and learning how to do this is important. There's different ways that you can do that. First of all, we talked about you can use paid ads, right? So you can create a system that is going to run advertisements to people that is going to then draw them into your world, provide information, draw them closer to a sale. That's one thing you can do. Another thing that you can do is you can go into groups where your people are congregating, and LinkedIn has groups, Facebook has groups. I don't think Twitter has groups, or Pinterest. I think Pinterest does. I don't even understand how that platform works. But there's definitely something in Pinterest where you like a certain thing and it puts you into their world. I'm not sure. I don't really understand how it works. I should really bring an expert on each of these into the podcast. But definitely where I reside, which is Facebook and LinkedIn, there's groups in both of them. And you can go into those groups and you can start to interact with people in the group and provide value. Now, first of all, any interaction with somebody is going to get them to look at your profile. So even if you're not posting something specifically about what you do, specifically about your law firm or specifically about the law, even if you're just giving your 2 cents about a topic being discussed, that itself is going to get people to look at you. It's going to get them to check out your profile. As a matter of fact, I don't know if it's this Thursday or next Thursday, we're going to have Jordan Ostroff on the podcast. And I found him because I saw him interacting in a group, and I liked what he was talking about. I checked out his profile, saw that he's got a marketing agency for law firm owners, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, why don't you come on the podcast? So you never know what just interacting in a group is going to do if your people are there. That it'll get them to check you out, to look at your profile and see what you do, and might maybe take the next step with you, come closer into your world. And then the other thing is actual promotion in a group. Often that's not allowed, but definitely you can collaborate with a group owner to do an information session. So this is something that I used to do a lot when I was targeting the online business community. I would go to Facebook group owners where they were, they had 10, 20,000 people in that group, specifically of my audience. And I would do an information session with them, perhaps on, say, Profit First. So I would come in, they would introduce me, and I would talk about what Profit First is and how it helps you and how it works. And ultimately at the end, I would offer them something for free. You could download my guide or my next steps or something like that. And then I would get names and email addresses from that where I can further contact them, promote to them, and hopefully draw them into my world as a client. So that's one strategy. Another strategy is just reaching out and making connections. And often the best way to find these connections is, again, in groups. But you can start to just try to connect with people who are your target market. And with those connections, once they get connected, you can start to message them. And I would not suggest messaging them with any sort of pitch, but rather message them to try to get to know them, get them to know you, and ultimately try to get them on the phone so that you can talk about what you each do and hopefully lead that phone conversation to the next step in the journey where perhaps they might be a potential client or even a referral source for you. So that's another strategy. And let's see if there are any others. Then there's the strategy of just posting, right? So you can just be posting memes, articles, information, and the more you post, the more people see it. If people start to interact with the content, if they start to comment on it, the algorithm will start showing it to people that they know, and that's how content can get spread and can get virality on social media. And that's also a strategy that can help you figure out what the hot buttons are for your audience. You might think that you know your market, but then when you go to put stuff on social and you're drawing a blank, you don't know what to write. When you just start putting content out there and you start to see, oh my goodness, these 3 posts totally blew up, and this stuff didn't land anywhere. For example, on the podcast here, our top downloaded episode, and it's had about 45% more downloads than any other episode ever released. Our top download episode is a replay of the Q&A, marketing Q&A session from the Law Firm Growth Summit. It was released end of December last year, and it's got the most downloads, and that tells me, and it's by far, like it's obvious. You sort by the number of downloads per episode, and it's in the number 1 spot by a long shot, and that tells me that my listeners are interested in that Q&A content, either that or in the marketing content, or it listed enough of the names that they recognize that people are listening to it because of the names that they recognize. I don't know which one of those it is, but I do know that means I need to have panelists on more often. I need to have Q&A sessions, Q&A episodes more often. As a matter of fact, there's a good chance that this week I'm going to release an extra episode that's going to contain Q&A piece in it, and see how that lands. See if you guys like it, if you want more of it. So I'm testing and tweaking that way here on the podcast, but you could do the same thing on social. You can see which of your posts are getting a lot of engagement, and that'll tell you that you're on the right path. That'll tell you that this is something I want to talk about some more. I want to put more information out. I want to give them a next step specifically tied to this. So those are many different strategies that you can use on social to get new business from social media. So step 5 is to identify and define your strategy. And then step 6 is to take that strategy that you've identified or you defined what you're going to do and to actually implement it. And it's really important that you go into this with a plan. So let's say your strategy is going to be posting. So you're going to just post something on social regularly to try to grow your audience that way. Well, if your strategy is posting on social, then you should identify what is the cadence that you're going to be doing, how frequently you're going to be posting. Is it going to be daily? Is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be 3 times a week? Is it going to be 4 times a day? Whatever that cadence that you determine it's going to be, you should have clarity on what that cadence is. You should also have clarity on what the types of posts are going to be. How much of it's going to be video? How much of it's going to be photos? How much of it's going to be long text posts? How much of it's going to be short text posts? What's going to be memes? The more clear and identified you get up front, the easier it's going to be to stick with it and to stay consistent. And that's the key. The key is to keep feeding the algorithm and keep providing it with content so that it knows to show your stuff to people. So those are steps 5 and step 6. And step number 7 is you want to add bells and whistles. Now, what do I mean by bells and whistles? Well, each platform has its nuances that work or don't work to kind of juice your stuff. So, for example, hashtags. Hashtags are really big on Instagram. They're so big on LinkedIn, and they really don't do anything on Facebook. So understanding your platform and understanding what types of things that you can do to make it more visible is important, but it's also important that you get started. And one of the things that's going to hold you back from getting started is trying to figure everything out before you even get out there and do it. which is why I put add bells and whistles as step number 7. You need to already be doing your posting. You need to already be putting stuff out there. You can always go back and edit posts. You can always go back. You can always repost the same post again, make a new post, and add the hashtags. Hashtags are just one example, but there's different things. So different things work, and you'll learn some of this stuff as you go. So you might not have known when you started, but now that you're familiar with the platform, you're seeing what other people are doing, you're paying attention, all of a sudden you start to notice, hey, this is something that works. One thing, for example, a friend of mine from the local networking group that I'm in, Michael Pariser, he started doing this thing on LinkedIn where if you interacted with a post, so he posted something, and then if you commented or you even liked the post, he sent you a personalized message saying, hey, thank you so much for interacting with my post yesterday. I really appreciate it. Your engagement added value to the community and gave me positive feedback. I appreciate it. So that message actually encouraged me to do the same thing more often with him. It made me feel good, right? And it made me want to do that more. So that's the kind of thing that I'm referring to. Don't hold back from putting the post out there because you don't have the time to go and manually engage with people to say, hey, thanks for engaging with my post. But if you learn about that tactic and you like it and it resonates with you and you say, oh my goodness, this is something that I can do, this is something I can get behind, then go ahead and add it. But only add it once you've got your strategy down and your strategy implemented and you're actually consistent with your posts and the stuff is going out there. Then you can go and you can add the bells and whistles. And all these examples are with posting, but it could be anything. It could be, if you're doing a messaging campaign, well, maybe your initial messaging campaign contains 2 messages and you want to get to 5. Well, get the 2 going and then add, a third or fourth or fifth later. Now we're up to step number 8. This is the final step, and I know this is a bit of a longer solo episode for me, so I'm going to try to make this quick, but hope that you understand it. So automate and delegate is step number 8, and this is where, up until now, if you were starting to look at tools of how can I schedule posts, how can I get ahead of this, how can I make this more efficient, then you went out of order. And the reason that this order, that I put it the way that it is because I'm a big fan of automation and delegation, but you can't, if you automate something that's not working, then essentially you've put a lot of work into something that is not going to get you any results anyway. So it's really important at the beginning of any strategy to do it manually, even with bringing on new clients, right? So when you first start your firm, there's a reason why it's better for you to get clients slowly at the beginning than to be able to hire a marketing company that within 3 months suddenly has your phone ringing off the hook. That you would think that's a good problem to have, but the reality is that if you're a brand new law firm owner, that's a terrible thing to have happen because you haven't yet figured out how to push these clients through. You haven't figured out your systems. You haven't figured out how to serve them properly. And what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a lot of people who don't get the customer service that they deserve and are going to turn around and badmouth your firm, and that damage can be long lasting. Whenever you do something new, you always want to do it manually so that you can learn from your mistakes, so that your mistakes are really small and they're not amplified. So don't do the automation and delegation until your system has been fine-tuned. You know what you're doing. You have a process. And then in this step would include creating a content calendar. Being really clear on how you're going to be rotating this stuff out. Look at pieces of software to schedule posts, to take posts that were done in the past and cycle them through so that you have posts that are no longer alive, that are dormant. You're creating. You don't have to recreate content because they're still relevant. So you could just have them get posted again as a new post. Delegation. If part of your strategy is to interact with anybody who is interacting with your posts and to comment back and write back to them, well, you can have an assistant, you can have a staff member do that, and then just bring it to your attention when it's something that they don't know how to respond for you. It's harder to automate that, but you can delegate that. So I strongly encourage you, once you have a system in place, to try to offload as much of this as possible to software and or people so that you're not busy on social all the time. That's not a good use of your time, but initially when you're first getting started, it is a good use of your time. Now, there are some things that are personal. So, for example, live video. If you're going to do live video, which I strongly encourage you to think about, and we can do a whole nother podcast episode on this, but if you're going to do live video, that needs to be you. Now, you just need to get in front of the camera and go live, but other stuff can happen behind the scenes by your team. An email going out to your email list, letting people who are on your mailing list know that you're going to be doing this live broadcast in advance. That could be written by somebody else. It could be scheduled by somebody else. You can even pre-schedule a live broadcast post, and that could be pre-scheduled by somebody on your staff or even your software. So there are definitely things that could be done by other people, but getting in front of the camera, it's got to be you, or it's got to be somebody appropriate in your firm who's familiar with the content, who would be a good representative of the firm and be able to go and get that done for you. Another example of automation is on LinkedIn, I have a strategy where we connect with people. So I connect with law firm owners, send them a messaging campaign of up to 5 messages until they respond back, always trying to drive them to a phone call. So those initial messages, it's the same message from connection to connection. And sending out connection requests is a very tedious process. And it's a numbers game, right? If I send out 100 requests, I might get 15 people I connect with. And then from those 15 people, I might get, over the course of 6 weeks and 5 messages to those people, I might get 1 phone call out of that. So out of every 100 connection requests we make, I might get 1 phone call. So if I do 100 connection requests a day, then I'm essentially getting a phone call a day, which over time will start to come in because of that campaign. So I automate all of that. I use a piece of software that sits there and goes on my LinkedIn account and sends out those connection requests every day. It does require a little bit of monitoring. So LinkedIn has limitations as far as how many people can come up and search. So I can only do 2,000 at a time. And when it runs through those 2,000 people, when it gets to the end of it, it stops and I need to load up a new search. So that is something that it doesn't need to be me. So somebody else can monitor it. So I have somebody else on my team monitoring it, but there's a piece of software that's doing the bulk of the work, the bulk of the heavy lifting in that particular situation. So that's just another example of automation and delegation. But you got to do what works for you. And again, it goes back to number 1, identify your target market. Then you can choose your platform. And then once you choose your platform, then you can figure out what the strategy is. And then once the strategy is implemented, you can think about bells and whistles and automating and delegating. And that's it, folks. So I hope that this was helpful to you. And I hope that you are immediately going to go and as soon as you know who your target market is, hopefully you do know that already, you're going to go and fix your profiles. That is step number 1 once you've identified your target market. And it's so important. So if nothing else, the one action that I can leave you with today is go clean up your profiles. Make sure that it reads in a way that somebody not only knows what you do, they not only are excited about it because if they're looking for you, they want to get in touch with you, but they also know what the next step is in the process. How do they take that next step with you? And that's it. So I hope that this was helpful, and I wish you all a wonderful week. And I just want to remind you that if you're enjoying the show, if this is your first time here, or even if you're back, repeat listener, but you haven't subscribed to the show, please hit that subscribe button so that you get notified every time a new episode goes live. This week, hopefully, we're going to have 3 episodes for you. This one, a Q&A, and then an interview. And then, if you are really enjoying the show, we'd really appreciate if you took the time to do a rate and review. because that helps other people know whether the show is one that they should check out and come and listen to. Take care. Thank you for tuning into the Profit with Law podcast. Your feedback is extremely valuable to us, as well as helping us reach more people with this valuable content. Please leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast directory. Join us again next time when we are back with even more strategies to profit with law.